This is a video about how I make the candles that I sell at the markets. The wax itself is a byproduct of extracting the honey, and I've done a video about how that's done, and you can see how the wax is extracted and cooled. I then use it to make these little candles, which I sell at markets. Oops, holding it up. And there's all sorts of different sorts here. There's a little bunny rabbit and a dog, which everybody seems to like. Oops, holding it up again, there you go. And various other ones. Now, what I do at markets is I have candles in bags ready for people to buy them, and these are the ones that I leave out for sort of demonstration. And you can see that they get a bit tatty and a bit grubby. So I'm going to make a new set, and I'll just do a video of how I do them. The basic ingredient for it obviously is beeswax, and this is my box of wax there, and you can see these are the blocks of wax that have been extracted from, made up rather, when the honey's been extracted, where they've been put through a sieve, through a filter rather, into various sort of ice cream containers and that sort of thing. And most of it's pretty good, usable. The yellower, the nicer, obviously. And I've got tons of the stuff. Some are a bit grubby, but I'll use the nice yellow stuff. Probably that one, and probably that one as well. Now, as far as the candles are concerned, there are a variety of different ways you can do this. A very classic way is what's called dipping, where it's what it sounds like. You just dip a candle wick into wax, and it then dries, and then you carry on dripping it and dipping it right, and it builds up until you get the sort of thin candle that everybody's familiar with. Far too much effort for my taste, so I don't use that. The other way you can do it is to roll sheets of wax. Now, obviously, I've got the wax here, but then I've got to make that into fairly thin sheets and then roll it, and it's just too much effort. I can't be bothered again. So what I do is I use moulds, and here they are, most of them anyway. Now, there are various types of mould you can use. A very traditional sort of one, if you like, is these sort of things, which are latex. Now, these are quite flimsy, these things, and they fall apart very quickly. So although I have used them, I don't use them very much anymore. I know somebody who buys toys and things from car boot sales and uses a wax and a solidifier mix, and he paints it onto these toys, and he does about 30 different layers, and then peels the toy out to leave you the mould. Far too much effort. I have tried doing it. I'm not very good at it, and the moulds themselves, like these things, are quite sort of flimsy, and you use them half a dozen times and they fall apart. So the ones that I use are these things here, and they are silicon blocks, and you can see what they are really. They are just silicon blocks, and you pour the wax into there, and it dries, cools rather, and out it comes. So I'm going to make one of each sort, and I'll set things up and you can see how it happens. Next stage is to put the wicks in the moulds, and the wicks are just little bits of string like this. They come on big rolls like this if you need that much, and the end of the wick has to have a little bit of oops, there we are. It has to be dipped in wax just so that the candle will light. The next stage is to put it into the candle, and I use one of these things, which is a little gate catch needle, which is a sort of fishing device thing. The moulds themselves have got holes in the top there where the wick goes through, so the needle goes through there, catches the wick, and it gets pulled through, hopefully. No, missed it. Have another go. Okay, that's through. So you can see there's a little groove there, and the wick lays flat into there. This is the bottom of the comb candle, and I just use these things for, I think, sort of hat pins, and you just stick it through the wick, balance it on top of the candle there, so the wick comes out vertical. Now I've got other ones to do. There, which I will do, and the next stage after that is just a simple thing about filling the moulds up with wax. I use this thing, which is just a simple cheap little metal bucket into which will go lumps of wax, and for convenience more than anything else, I melt it down using this thing, which is a heat gun, sort of thing you use for peeling paint off window frames, that sort of thing. And it does it very quickly, and then you just pour it into the frames, into the moulds, sorry, and leave it for about 20 minutes or so. Some take longer than others to cool. This one is a pain in the neck. It's quite big, and it takes a long time to cool down, and quite often when you take the candle out it rips the wick out of it, so I leave that one for longer. So that's what I'll do next, and then once the wax is in the moulds and cooled down, we'll have a look at getting them out. So I finished making the candles. I think however much you want to filter these things, you always finish up with little bits of grit and stuff, and unfortunately that sinks to the bottom, which means that when you take the candle out, the bits of grit are actually on the top, but they're okay. There's a carnation thing, there's a rose, which is quite nice, dog, everybody likes the dog, a skep, little skeppy thing there, and the big one, which is the bee on a flower. So those will be the new demo candles that I'll put out rather. As well as these things, I've been doing some other candles as well. It is Christmas on the way, so what I've done is I've made some Christmas candles, and there's 3 of them. There is the Little Father Christmas with a book or prezi or something like that, and then there's a snowman, and this one is fairly obviously the Christmas tree. Now that Christmas tree thing, I actually use a latex mould which looks like this, like a little rocket. And to get the wax to go green, you just add a little dye to it. Another reason why I don't like using these things is that they stick, particularly this one does, so you have to use this stuff, which is cake release, which is like a silicone gel, and I have to cover the inside of the mould with it, otherwise the candle will never come out. So what I'll do is I've got some little Christmas box things on the way, so there'll be the Father Christmas, the snowman and the candle for the princely sum of I think £6, I think, and they'll be available at your local North Bedfordshire Honey Mega store in time for Christmas. So that's how I make candles.